Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 10th anniversary Sound Kapital stream, which I am watching in two different ways right now. If you had have told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting in Montreal watching a cyberpunk melted stream of the entire album on a gaming PC and a Mac, uh, I would have said you're crazy. Thank you guys for showing up. Привет. Yeah, so I figure if anyone has any questions about the record, like while we're listening to it, just let me know and and I'll do my best to answer. I've been thinking a lot about this record over the last couple of days. I did an interview for Exclaim magazine, which kind of sent me down a like a memory trail, you know. And although I can't believe that it's been 10 years, it does feel like it's yesterday. Yeah, Brad is doing the visuals. Brad is on the ones and twos of visual representation. Yeah, this is rad. I'm pretty stoked about this. This was like a landmark record for me. I think it like basically put a dividing line between two parts of my life in more ways than one. Any reason for the color of the LP, like the orange color? I thought it looked absolutely cool. I was just purely aesthetics. I thought it was rad. I think basically Sub Pop said they could do clear orange vinyl, and we just jumped at it. You know? There was a lot of Hanson Bruce put a lot of work into packaging and album design. Yeah, we kind of went all out, like the sort of clear LP sleeve and stuff. I think in a lot of ways. Oh, two different covers. Okay, so well, the original cover, the real cover of this record, has a woman named Amber on the cover, and she is completely naked, and iTunes did not accept that, so we used the back cover as the front cover for iTunes. Actually, we didn't even really have a choice; they just pretty much censored it. Favorite song on this album? I kind of go back and forth. I think "Serve the People" and yeah, the Naughty cover. "Serve the People" and "What About Us." "What About Us" is it was like the most complex song that we'd written at that point, and yeah, I think I go back and forth between those two, but I love them all. Favorite song to play live? At the time, it was probably "Memories of the Future" because I didn't have to play guitar. I could just like rock the mic, basically. And it had those big square wave bass pulses on it. Yeah, I think it's funny. Like Spotify has the modified cover as well, which is like a swimming pool in Beijing. Was taken. I think that photo was taken probably 2006, 2007, maybe. Did I read the "Bury Me Standing" book about Roma? Yeah, so that song is titled after that book. Yeah, I love that book. That book is an amazing sort of anthropological look at the Roma people in Balkans. Which pedals did I use most? I tried to get away from using. Oh, hey, it's Archie. I tried to get away from using the same sort of digital delays that I've been using on all the other records. But I did end up using, and I think I have it here, possibly. No, I don't. I don't have it here. I use this Japanese fuzz pedal called the Super Oscillo Fuzz, and something called a Tone X, which is like all over for the sort of noise section of No Feelings, and we used it on the keyboards a lot too. I'm just gonna get up and close the door. Yeah, what about us is kind of became a fan favorite. I think because of the disco breakdown. Okay, yeah. Stacy, the nostalgia line. I mean, for me, I still feel the same way. I feel like nostalgia is. I've softened towards it, but I still feel like it is kind of maybe a bit of a trap. You know, it's a bit of a trap for the mind. Especially after reading a lot of Mark Fisher between when I wrote these songs and now. It's sort of the weaponized idea of nostalgia, but I can fuck with some nostalgia now. I feel like I've gotten to a point where I can indulge myself. Yeah, the album leaked almost immediately after we announced it, and I'm pretty sure we tracked down who leaked it too, but I actually can't remember. It might have been Under the Radar, somebody at Under the Radar magazine. That seems to stick in my head. It's funny, like I feel like if albums leak now, they leak totally intentionally. Yeah, Cheap Music. Cheap Music was kind of a reference to that bad AV Club review of Bass Control. We got a bad review for Bass Control from AV Club. They didn't like that sounded cheap and thrown together, and after spending, like the writing period for Sound Kapital touring Southeast Asia and China and then going deeper into the Balkans, I started feeling like the idea of cheap music and using whatever you had at your disposal was actually a positive thing, and that's kind of like what that whole song is about. Yeah. Anything I'm not satisfied with, I gotta say, we had mentioned it earlier in the chat. We had this song Agony that I absolutely love playing live, and we never recorded it properly. So it came out as like, it's basically a live off the floor version, what you hear as the bonus track. And I was really frustrated with the fact that we couldn't get that on the record. I feel like we should have re-recorded it and put it out as a single, but it never happened. Ooh, Bury Me Standing. Yeah. The song putting Bury Me Standing together was actually a complete pain in the ass, because written this drum beat on the Korg Elect drive. And this was the first record where we were using like analog polyphonic synths chained to the drum machine with MIDI. Before we were just eyeballing it, because I didn't know how MIDI is. Pretty funny to think about, but yeah, basically I figured out how to sync the LFO, so the ducking sound on those keys, to the tempo of the song. And it took forever to figure out how to get everything to sit right, so it didn't sound like a giant mess. Someone I'd love to see cover a Sound Kapital song. The band Uniform, I don't know if you guys know that band. They're like, I think they're on Sacred Bones. They're a really, really great, like, just punked out industrial band. Kind of like the Damage soundscape, you know? They're sort of in that wheelhouse, but way, way heavier. But I'd love to hear them do a cover of Damage, or Bury Me Standing. Bury Me Standing was challenging too, because, like, you know, when we recorded it, Arlen and I spent so long tracking individual drum parts, because there was no way to take all of the drum sounds on the Electrod and record them individually in one pass, if that makes sense. So basically we had to mute every track except for the kick drum, record the kick drum, and go back, mute every track except for the hi-hat, record that, and build the songs up in successive layers, which is just a ton of work, especially when you're dealing with fills and, like, tempo changes, you know, trying to ramp the tempo up, because it's all locked to a sequence or anything. And like Pro Tools, we're using like Reaper, who's kind of a tape emulator. But yeah, Arlen had some amazing sort of like technical fixes for the limitations of the setup. And then we did something we hadn't done before, which is we moved out of the studio that we were rehearsing in and finished the record at Hotel Topanga with Howard Dillerman, and then sent it to someone else for mixing. So it was, I don't know, in a lot of ways it was the most ambitious thing we did, and we argued about it a lot. It was like a major bone of contention between me and Alexi, which was how far did we want to push the aesthetic of this band and push this sort of production level. But like at the time, Wolf Parade was on hiatus, and Divine Fits was an idea. It wasn't, you know, it didn't seem like, I had no idea that it was going to be something concrete. So in terms of just like work, life, art, I felt like after the Wolf Parade hiatus, it was important to put all of my energy into Handsome Furs, and to sort of, in a way, like step it up from where we were at. I think we've gotten comfortable at the level that we were at, and this was like a real push, like not a giant push, but like enough of a push that it felt. The biggest shows Handsome Furs ever played were probably festival shows. I mean, Capitol Hill Block Party, European festivals, and then just shows in Europe. Our shows in Europe were selling Wolf Parade at that point, which was pretty crazy, depending on where we were playing. Handsome Furs as a festival act was something that started happening around Sound Kapital time. Vocal melodies. How do I come up with vocal melodies? Okay, well, usually, I mean, for this record, basically beat and a bass line, usually like a verse part or a chorus part, and I just loop it over and over again, and then I sing nonsense, gibberish over top of it until I get a melody that I feel like works. And I also kind of go into a fugue state, and that's when the good stuff happens. And then I take those melodies and go through like whatever block of text I'm working with and just fitting words into the phrasing. filming the video for I'm Confused was brutal. I got extremely sick because we stayed up for 24 hours, and all those scenes outside, it was super cold. And then we had to fly to Europe immediately after getting home from Portland, where we shot it. And I got oh yeah, it's Dan Boeckner. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that shoot was brutal. Do I still like the music videos from this? Yeah, I do. I think Scott did like a really, really amazing job on all that stuff. Yeah, there's always like talk back and forth about a new Divine Fits record, but it's really dependent on first of all, like the pandemic really being over, and second of all, like Spoon and operators and everything's schedules lining up. 90 minutes into a mandatory 14 days of Trudeau enforced solitude. I'm so sorry, man. What informed this record? I was listening to a ton of dance hall, and industrial music, but dance hall mainly, and was really, really into the Bug around the time this record came out, and just like kind of crushed digital bass sounds. Also really falling in love with a lot of like post-punk and disco. Post-punk always a backdrop, but it's weird. I think the music I listened to when I was writing this was, on one hand, way more aggressive than what I had been listening to for the last five or 6 years, and also way more in the sort of dance music vein of things. Serve the People. Yeah, I was listening to a lot of cheesy house music. A lot, dude. I love it very much. This is maybe my favorite song on the record, and I think one of my favorite things I've ever written. I wrote it about we played in Myanmar before Aung San Suu Kyi was elected to like nominal position in government. The country was under like a super heavy lockdown. We were not there. We definitely weren't supposed to be playing a show, and the opening band for this underground show that we played, I don't know, I developed a deep love and friendship for these guys, and my time there really influenced me, really impacted me, made an impression. I wrote this pretty much as soon as I got back from Montreal. I recently was talking to Darko, who is the front man for Side Effect, the band that brought us out. And he had to flee the country. Anyone who's been on the Biblioteca Discord knows I've been talking about this. It was a pretty harrowing couple of months. There's essentially like borderline civil war conditions there now. But he told me that during the street violence, like 2 or 3 months ago, people were playing "Serve the People," which blew my mind. I can't believe that something I wrote a couple blocks away from here resonated with younger Burmese people like that. So, yeah, pretty honored to be able to go there. also becoming extremely angry about class situation, class consciousness and class situation in North America at the time, which was another. We were 2 years into the financial crisis, with the fallout from the subprime mortgage meltdown. So, and just traveling all over America and Canada, you could see the effects of it. And I felt like, the people I talked to at the merch table and, places I went to eat before the show, just observing life in America and Canada at that time, I felt like the impact of what had happened was not being telegraphed properly and served the people, uh, not just about, the experience in Burma. I was trying to, maybe naively trying to make like a collective point about people whose hands are on the levers of power not having a interests at heart.
Well, they're an army of thieves. They've got everything they need.
Made in Beijing, yes. Lydia, our friend Lydia made the Serve the People video, and shot it on location in Beijing, and I love it. How did we get the sound? A lot of the sound for Serve the People is just Dave Smith monophone, like I believe it's the Mofo, and it's all Cork Electrode. So it's like a very digital square wave bass doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. Yeah, I think this was one record. I mean, into I put in this category as it was conceived not as a concept record, but there was an emotional vision behind it, which you can't always do when you're making an album. Sometimes you get like a mosaic of ideas and feelings, but this had like a focus to it. And what Jay is saying about thin places, yes. I mean, I talked about this a little bit on the Bottleman podcast, but in 2010, the world of globalism, I think, had a high watermark. Like, you could fly from Frankfurt to Hong Kong and experience the same frictionless airport lounge. The frictionless airport lounge experience extended beyond the airport, Like, a lot of Europe was starting to look the same. A lot of Asia was starting to emulate part of Europe. Yeah, that was the environment this was made in. And I was interested in the thin places in that, underneath that kind of skin of globalism. If that makes sense. The CNN travel web series, they just basically approached us and said, "Hey, we'll send you some flip cameras to Australia. Will you document your trip?" And we did, but we had no real editorial control over that. How did we arrange for Sam? So I have to give props to Dan Boeckner for reconstructing almost the entirety of the Handsome Purse set. Like, she basically, I had lost almost all of the original programming for those songs, and she went in and essentially recreated them from scratch and improved on at least like the live flexibility of them in like a huge way. I was working in Nanaimo and some Wolf Parade stuff when she started doing that, and I remember her sending me voice memos and just being like kind of being blown away. And then she and I kind of decided, like, what would be a good place for Sam to come in, and supplement. And then Sam obviously is an amazing drummer, so he's just listening and Yeah, we rehearsed stuff and then we'll move. Like, okay, I had straight saying that I'm not, but we'll put it back in. The CNN thing was weird because it culminated in us performing at a joint Vice CNN like launch party for Vice's brief stint as like content creators for CNN. They did a free partnership, and that was what I could only describe as like peak 2010s New York. It was very odd, and although, you know, I hate to hand it to CNN, I will hand it to them for that night. The people there were extremely less obnoxious than the Vice contingent. The CNN people were just happy to be in New York, and very, very nice and excited to dance. And the Vice people were coked to the gills and just totally, for the most part, pretty unpleasant to be around. I am totally supportive for a 33 and a third pitch on any of these albums. For choosing a guitar, I mean, I've never really had much choice in guitars. It's only recently had more than like 2 working guitars. But for Handsome Furs, it's usually the Telecaster for the chords, and then a Jazzmaster with the tremolo arm for the leads, and that's about it. The simplicity of it with the songwriting on this record, I feel like I got to a place where I was like, it's okay if the song just has 2 chords. It's okay if most of the song just has 1 chord, and it's okay if you can play the same note over the whole thing. Oh, Repatriated. Yeah. This was another I think result of learning how MIDI clock works, because I could finally accurately sync up like bass arpeggios to the electrode and kind of move through chords. The song is a total blast to play live. The original version of it has guitar all the way through, which I'm glad decided not to continue. Like the demo is way more of a punk rock song, but I like the kind of new energy, like 80s. I guess it's high energy. That's what we're going for. Sort of like post disco. I don't know where that expat is living these days. I mean, the expat is me, and I'm back in Montreal. I've always thought, I mean, I might end up somewhere very strange and quiet after the second act of my life. Yeah, the guitar is down a full step on this album. This is the standard Handsome Furs full freight tuning. The lead riff is on the Dave Smith Mofo desktop module. And I sequenced it in a way that basically the notes stay the same, but the tuning of the oscillators jumps around, which made it really, really hard to replicate when reprogramming. There's a book called Sound Kapital that's a document of the Beijing punk scene, and that's what it's named after. And I absolutely love the idea of, like, I don't know, I just like the words together. Das Kapital. a world of sound. There were a couple of other songs that did not make the cut, but that's because they just weren't very good. So, yeah. There was some kind of interstitial stuff that we were going to do as well, sort of like the stuff that's on Bass Control, but I felt like it was taking away from the impact of the album, if that makes sense. Bar chords or open chords. I don't really know how to play guitar in a classical sense. I don't. It's a mix of bar chords and open chords, and then just sort of half chords depending on what pedal I have on. Like for No Feelings, it's a big mix of like I play the top half of the chord, record it with one setting on the amp, and then overdub the bottom half of the chord with the bass cranked way up. I kind of wanted to approximate like that. That wire song, Strange. It's a guitar, but it sounds alien somehow, and it's not because there's a lot of fancy overdub playing going on. It's just there's something about the sound that doesn't sound quite human, and that's something I've always wanted to replicate. Yeah, it can be really gnarly. Sheet music was weirdly like almost impossible to play on the original album tour, but I feel like we figured it out on the Operator's run. I don't know why that song was always like something would go wrong. There's something with the timing of it, it's just kind of relentless. Everything would fall out of sync, so we were always really nervous to play it live, but Operators managed to wrangle it. There's nothing really tongue-in-cheek about No Feelings. I mean, it's Dev and I were talking about this last night, but yeah, No Feelings is like a pretty sad song. It's earnest, but it's just basically about having to shut off like your internal emotional monologue to be able to continue moving forward. And I think at that point, like especially when that record was getting written, and definitely when it was being toured, like there was a level of just like sort of terror and exhaustion going on in the background constantly. And for me, the more politicized I was getting, the more I was feeling like, and I don't mean this in a fucking feelings type way, but I was kind of wishing that I could turn off the emotional center of my brain at will, like whenever I needed to. To be totally honest, in retrospect, a lot of that song is kind of predictive of, I think, predictive of the end of me and Alexi's marriage. Like, there was definitely something was not right, and it wasn't like I was going to be able to untangle it because I was singularly focused on touring and writing. Yep. So yeah, that was a very emotional song for me, I think. Handsome Furs was based on it's like a Victorian era advertisement for furs that that was pretty amazing. And people have interpreted it in, I mean, like any band name, it's just like seemed like a good idea at the time, and then just kind of stuck, and the meaning, I guess, kind of changed. But my first sort of public interaction with that name was on MySpace, where there were a bunch of people who pinged it who were PETA supporters, and they basically started spamming the MySpace, and it got so bad that there was a couple of total psychos who were basically like, if you come to our town, we will come to the show and kill you. Yeah, that was one of my early interactions with internet psychosis. So yeah, I started working on writing for this fourth Handsome Furs record, and I don't think any of the material ever got recycled, to be honest. Like the sequencer that I was using, there's a whole bank of just little ideas, like verses, melodies, beats, and stuff like that. And I didn't really want to touch any of that stuff. When I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't have any of that equipment. I didn't touch it. It was years later that I kind of listened to it, and I think it's best that it just it stays as just ideas, just unborn, floating around. Oh yeah, I mean, once the ability to properly tour and cross the border comes back, yes, definitely. I think I don't know. I think it would have been interesting to see what like another Handsome Furs record would have sounded like. I was obsessed with the idea of like adding the live band to the tour, because at that point we were pulling in enough tickets that we could afford to do it. But maybe it's better that it just it ended where it did, that it kind of went out on a high note. Oh yeah, Rachel. It's a big Sonic Youth metal section. That band was like key to my musical development, and I'd never ever been able to get like a noise breakdown section right. And with No Feelings, I felt like we pretty much did it. Arlen did some amazing shit with that section, like just the editing and stuff is so tight. Arlen, third member, like his production shaped those records so much. I felt like working on them together, we kind of grew together as well. Like Plague Park, which, believe it or not, Imitation was just recorded live to 2-track stereo, and then the guitar and vocals were overdone on top of it. With bass control, there's a little bit more multi-tracking, and then with this, we actually managed to break all of the individual sounds out, so we could, mix them like a normal band as a record. But yeah, the limitations that we had, I think Arlen's fixes for the limited palette that we had were amazing. It's super creative, and the band would not have sounded anywhere remotely as good without his involvement. Yeah, I guess No Feelings was kind of an emotional manifesto for me. The idea about returning to sound, no matter what happens. In here, I always have, sound, not even necessarily music, but just that big wall of sound to clear everything out, you know? And in a lot of ways, this record was super cathartic for me. Sound Capital was so the primary, like the bed tracks were recorded at the combination Wolf Parade Winter Sleep studio, which used to be the old Arcade Fire studio. It's where Funeral was written. A lot of Apologies was written there. Um, it's this studio that had kind of been in the family at that point for 7 years by the time we were writing, and we sort of ended up taking over the back room, and Arlen and I did most of the principal tracking there, and then we went to Hotel to Tango, um, and just started going crazy with overdubs. I think the big thing on this record too was vocally. I was really trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, but I'm not really sure. I think in total it took like probably 3 2-week sessions, and most of the work was done in the preceding summer. Just every day at the studio, writing, and refining stuff. Um, and then, yeah, obviously, we sent this to get mixed to our friends in Finland, Haiku Studios. All kinds of stuff for Spencer as well. Jonas, the guy who mixed it. Um, that was big, like relinquishing control of the mix to people who were, so far away. So we'd have to like wait for revisions and shit. Um, but I'm really glad we chose them because it seemed everything seemed to work. They seen us play so many times, and I think they understood what we were trying to do. Um, Current favorite since I think we this, which is Alessandro Cortini from Nine Inch Nails, worked with Make Noise to design this insane like echo noise synth, which we've been using a lot. I've been using it for um, some of the instrumental stuff on the Patreon, and then just yesterday we were using it for Stellium. We were up at the studio recording some Stellium stuff with Tim, and ran everything. It sounds really good. I think this is the most political album. I think so. I think Blue Wave and Radiant Dawn are very political too, but in a different way. I think this is the most like classically political record. Yeah, definitely. I think I talked about an Exclaim interview I did recently, but the biggest driver for this record was really China. Like if Phase Control was you know meeting and interfacing with post-Soviet um, Eastern Europe, then this record was seeing China in a super formative period, like 2010 in Beijing and some of the other places we went, like Wuhan in particular, was, I would say, in the top like five of my most life-changing experiences, just being there. And I don't know, this is kind of controversial, but and I'll try and focus my thoughts and keep it short. Like playing a show in a place like Wuhan and talking to people after the show and talking to people who feel like they have a future was insane. I mean, uh, talking to people who are the sort of analog of what I imagine like young people in America the late 1950s were like. Like there were jobs, money, mobility. Uh, it's like a sense of the world moving forward where they were and not stagnated or moving backwards. And that fucked me up for months and months. And a lot of the writing on this record is a reaction to realizing that, processing those feelings. Favorite snack during a long day in the studio? I don't know. I gotta say banh mi sandwich. I've been eating like I've been eating like a banh mi every day. It's Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if when we tour, that's the first place I want to go. East Asia, China. Favorite part of touring Sound Capital? I have a couple. Like I think going back to the places that inspired the songs was really, really satisfying. Like playing in Belgrade and just singing cheap music, or um, playing in Beijing and playing Repatriated, and being able to talk to the audience about how like their specific corner of the world like inspired the song. That you were. Uh, and the North American tours were, I gotta say, pretty great. Like we stepped up venue sizes, and I remember the New York shows being totally insane. We played a show at Slim's in San Francisco, which I was I was shocked at how many people were there. Capitol Hill Block Party as well sticks out in my mind as like a great show. Kind of felt like the work that we had done in the previous years was starting to pay off like in an organic way. It felt very, and I don't mean I'm not gassing myself up, but it felt like we earned it, and not that it was some just weird like I felt like we had earned the ticket sales and earned the fans. The most Oh man, that's a bummer. That's a bummer that Slim's is now called YOLO. Um, any place we toured that we felt the most energy, urgency, or optimism? Um, I definitely say like China and Vietnam. Um, we played a show in Hanoi that was completely insane and was like cut short by flooding. But it felt very Shanghai. Actually, there's a club called Yu Tang that we played at that was some of the most shows I've ever played. Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. So like is saying yeah, the ambient mood. I mean, the I haven't been back in a while, but I don't feel like things have gotten better here. Like they've definitely declined. Um, I mean, there has been some good art that's been produced out of it, and I think there's more of a feeling of solidarity now, maybe than that sort of coasting feeling that was happening in 2010. And I think that's good, you know. Oh, that's that's amazing. Random dive bar in Wuxi. Um, Recommendations for people looking to be repatriated? I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Balkans. I I would say anywhere that's not just like oppressively hot. It's fucking melting in my apartment. There's no shame, I think, in hearing Hanson Furs in a car commercial for the first time. I don't think that's sad at all. At one point, we got offered a I think it was an entire ad campaign for the country of Bahrain, and the ad campaign safe. Uh, there was a tiny cartoon map. Of course, the commercial was showing you how safe Bahrain was to invest in, and we weren't. I think we got bumped out of the running, but by the time we got bumped out of the running, we decided this is maybe a bridge too far. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I have any like if I have any like closing thoughts on this record, it's that sometimes you make a good one, you know? Like uh sometimes everything lines up and like your experiences and what you want to say and your emotional state all get through the cosmic funnel, and what comes out the other side is good. It doesn't happen very often, but I think it takes like luck and like a specific set of circumstances and like really good people around you to make it happen. And that's what happened on this record, I think. Best piece of gear from 10 years ago? Fuck. Roland Space Echo clone, double pedal floor model. Pretty great sounding. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and celebrating this 10-year anniversary. Enjoy communism class, Richard. Thank you, Stacy. And yeah, a big thank you to Maria for making this possible and for tour managing this last couple of tours. All right. And thanks to Brad. Much love, guys. Stay cool.